equal dragon weapon it's like not actual lore, but a lot of fans of Monster Hunter want it to be real because it was in some like concept art books in the past, right? And
Yeah.
this guy actually explains it pretty well. But is it real lore or is it fake lore? Ooh. Anyway, I hope you enjoy watching this movie.
Told you that
And
the
if you're
world
here
of
in it too,
Monster
Eli.
Hunter was darker than
Ooh.
it seemed. Well, that's
Yeah,
something a
sure.
lot of fans like to think about and speculate over. Through the course of its inception and design, Monster Hunter has had some rather dark ideas created that never
That
really
it
saw their
has.
inclusion into the games themselves. This hasn't stopped fans from speculating and coming up with their own reasoning and stories for some of these ideas. Long before the hunters we know today existed, there was an ancient civilization, one that studied and hunted countless dragons, using their bodies for various experiments and building immense fortresses and kingdoms. What if I told you a forbidden act had taken place, and through these experiments and the lives of hundreds of dragons, a man-made monster was formed? Part machine, part biological construct. Just what exactly was this act? Did it
Doesn't that sound horrifying, Vivi?
It does sound horrifying.
that's that's a horrifying. Killed so many dragons, making their body parts into mechanical parts. Because Monster Hunters does have like weird weapon lore.
actually happen? And what horrible creature was created by humanity in their quest of progress? Is the lore surrounding the
Look
equal
at that
dragon
thing.
weapon real, or just a fan theory? In today's video, we're going to explore what is known in the Monster Hunter universe as the Ancient Civilization, the Equal Dragon Weapon, the Great Dragon War, and a little bit about Fatalis.
Yeah,
We'll
boy.
brush up on what is actually known about these events and individuals, and take a look at what's just speculation. Before we delve into this, I want to be very clear. A lot of
I
these
love this little
concepts are
pig.
just that, concepts. Some of them are really old and have never been canonically implemented into the Monster Hunter series, while others are talked about as legends but never given full details. Despite this, you can find an odd amount of details about them online. The information I'll be talking about in this video is derived from these concepts, theories, and speculations, and shouldn't be looked at as Monster Hunter fact or canon as a whole. This video is simply for
Yeah.
entertainment and semi-educational.
It's really sad that most of it isn't technically canon, but damn it, if you've seen some of the art books, Vivi, the Equal Dragon weapon looks hard and goes hard. If they ever implemented
Let's
it,
get
it would be
started.
awesome in a terrifying way.
This Wednesday,
Ah, fuck!
January 1st,
Jesus!
we're kicking off a 4-week chair workout
Naked
challenge.
Dude
God,
scared me.
Grandpa's ripped.
In a week, you'll feel better.
The Santa in training, the Santa they tell you to worry about. Oh god damn.
Santa, she says not to worry about.
Yeah, that. Going
Within
back.
the Monster Hunter universe exists knowledge of an ancient civilization, much more technologically advanced than that of current hunters. This civilization was made up of more than just humanity, but humans were an incredibly large factor, and they spanned across many regions. Looking at areas such as jungle or tower, you can find many remnants of these people. For example, in Area 1 of the jungle location, you can see some ominous ruins off into the distance, and the tower being an example of an ancient structure said to have been created out of the bodies of multiple Kushala Daura. That idea is up for debate,
Goddamn.
however. The main reason people believe this is due to rusted scales being mined from locations within the tower, but this doesn't directly prove the tower was made out of Kushalas. But buildings created out of dragons? That sounds like a hefty task, and something that would require an incredibly large amount of materials if true. Exponentially more so than just creating weapons or armor out of a monster's hide. It's said that
That's
these
a pretty
monsters do a lot
dragon.
of different
You
things,
fought this dragon
and
before.
I mean a lot.
That's Kashala Daora. Remember the one that blows wind?
Oh.
So, fun fact, Kashala Daora, his skin actually rusts over time when he's little, right? As
Yeah.
going into adulthood, he rusts. And then he will shed the rusted scales. His skin will be temporarily
Tide.
temporarily
It's said they
white,
use monsters
and then it
for
will
a lot of
change into
different
black.
things, and I
Isn't
mean
that
a
cool?
lot. For example, the towers I mentioned earlier. Many of these towers exist and are still being found to this day. And if each one is made via monster parts, that
So,
would cost the lives of
in the tower bit of the lore, people think that people built Kashala or they built the tower out of Kashala parts because you could like while you're mining through it, you could find a bunch of his parts there that are like rusted. But that's probably not canon. But making towers and shit out of monster parts isn't unheard of in Monster Hunters. So, you know,
You're gonna hurt my brain one day.
Some of these monsters are speculated by fans to be treated as guards to fend off attacks on these buildings or to complete menial tasks, but rarely were they treated with respect. Rather, these monsters are speculated as often being treated as slaves. However, there are rare instances of the monsters being treated as equals. One of these monsters is Nefu Gerumudo, a
Ooh, this
non-canon
guy.
elder dragon introduced in the
Pig.
mobile spin-off game Monster Hunter Explorer. The idea of monster slaves already paints the civilization as morally bankrupt, but that was just the tip of the iceberg. To be able to hunt monsters more efficiently, the civilization researched and created multiple types of highly technological weapons. Some remnants and documentation on these weapons have been found by the Hunters Guild and have been used in modern times, such as the
that a
Dragonator,
bear?
multiple of which
Yes,
can be
yes,
found
it
around
is.
different ancient structures, like Castle Scrade. However, the concept of one weapon they developed was different from the rest, a bioweapon designed to match the destructive power and might of any dragon. I'm talking, of course, about the Equal Dragon Weapon.
Oh, look at that design. This is just a elder dragon VV. Like here's the hunter to scale it, like down here. That's the hunter. This is like a what if equal dragon weapon.
Ooh.
God.
Also, let me switch you to my iPad.
Okay. Yo, Eli, what do you think of this guy? Like he's like a dragon built with like other dragon parts put together.
That looks nice.
He looks crazy and gnarly, eh? We'll wait for VV to get back. Oh my goodness. She's dead! Yeah, it's not a cannon monster, but it looks so sick. Like with the puppet strings and everything holding it up, like where, as if like, you know, like they're working on it. It's really sick. What's up, Nope?
Get your stuff out of the ground.
Yeah, I can. After I'm done recording.
Sorry.
It's okay, buddy. You're fine. The Equal Dragon Weapon is discovered in some ruins, an ancient storage facility. It's possibly the only remaining weapon of war from the great age of the Great Dragons War. This man-made dragon was pieced together using parts harvested from over 30 mature dragons. However artificial, the Equal Dragon weapon boasts a might comparable to any living dragon. Its physical strength, endurance, and firepower are said to have posed the most relevant threat to the dragons during the ancient war. The technology behind crafting an Equal Dragon weapon reached its pinnacle during the Great Dragon Wars, but the technology, along with the great dragon hunters of the day, ancestors of the modern day monster hunters, were not destined to last. The humans engaged the dragons in the war of epic scale, with both sides fighting valiantly and ferociously until they were similarity brought to the brink of extinction. So in other words, these motherfuckers fought each other to the brink of death, and they ended up never even having to use the weapon, which is pretty cool. Vivi? She's gone forever. We'll never get her back, Eli. I'm sorry.
I'm back.
Alright.
Ancient civilization had figured out how
Got
to
her back.
create life through the use of
Wonder if
both
he's gonna
technology
say
and
the same thing I
biology.
said.
To create this life form
I don't think he
cost the
does.
lives of several others and should probably be considered pretty evil due to this.
You
The
think?
Equal Dragon weapon is the first and only example of these techno-biological creations.
I've got
Dude,
Mochi
Just
with me.
one of these beasts would require over 30
Show
mature
Mochi,
dragons to
dragons.
produce. There isn't much
Yeah, my own
specific
Palico.
information about the
Hell
Equal
yeah.
Dragon weapon, but with the release of the Hunter's Encyclopedia, there is some info of note we can derive from it. The Hunters Guild actually discovered a dead Equal Dragon specimen and began studying it. From this, we
So
know
see, that's
the
a dead
following.
one.
As
Damn.
already stated, the monster is pieced together using parts of over 30 mature dragons. This creation is said to have power comparable to any living dragon, meaning it could go head to head with any of the elder dragons known at the time, at least to the knowledge of the Hunters Guild. This wasn't just through brute strength either. While the monster had the power of a dragon, it also had the technology of the ancient civilization equipped, meaning that
Which
it
is
had
crazy.
firepower on top of its unnatural strength. Now, here's where things get a little confusing. The dragon is said to be the only remaining weapon of war from the age of the Great Dragon War, which we'll touch on shortly, but other theories suggest that the creation of the monster is what really sparked the war to begin with. So, was it designed and created specifically to combat against dragons within a large conflict, or was it created to just further boost the efficiency of killing monsters and using them for humanity's own gain? Regardless, it was a factor within the war, and the technology used to craft the weapon was improved on and reached its peak during the conflict. This conflict would ultimately bring both
The most
humanity and dragons to the
ginormous
brink of
monster I
extinction.
ever
What was this
seen.
war, and how were the
He is
ancient
made up of
dragon
30
weapons
other
used within
monsters,
it?
so
Well, there really isn't much I can tell you on
Just
that topic
crazy.
that is verifiably known. Some
Is
say
that like
the
a
ancient
2DS or is that
dragons
like an old
becoming fed
PlayStation?
up with
This
how
is
humans
I
were
think this
killing
is
them in
a
droves and using them as
PlayStation.
cattle.
This
While others look
PlayStation, you
to
can see
the
the
legend
square
of
in
the
the
Black
bottom
Dragon
right.
as some sort of
Oh,
info
okay.
dump on the war. But for those that don't know, the legend of the Black Dragon is just a song mentioned in the Hunter's Notes in Monster Hunter Freedom. The song's premise is about Fatalis and mostly just talks about how amazing and powerful he is, without ever mentioning the war at all. Maybe that's different from the original Japanese text, but I currently wouldn't be able to tell you. But Fatalis was considered a threat to humanity within Monster Hunter lore. It is a
True.
legendary elder dragon, and while not canonically interacted with, is talked about by many characters within the Monster Hunter games. It is rumored both in-game and out that Fatalis would do to the humans as they had done to dragons, using their weapons as his own, and even melting humans down and wearing them as armor. We now know that this wasn't really the case. Rather, Fatalis was just so hot that when it lies down on the armor and weapons of fallen hunters, they melt, most likely attaching
Jesus
themselves to its
Christ.
body in some capacity. Originally, when I decided to make this video, it was going to be vastly different. I thought I'd be delving into the lore of Monster Hunter and exploring some dark aspects of humanity's history in the series, but that didn't end up being the case at all. Rather, what I found was a large amount of concepts that haven't been introduced fully to the series, and from these concepts, a lot of speculation from fans. Well, the fact is, we don't.
Yeah, but with the Castle of Strode being introduced in World, because pretty sure he made this video before World came out. So Castle Strode is one of the ancient cities that was destroyed in the Tales of Fatalis. And many things talk about like the rumors and mythos when you like go to craft the weapons, which is really cool. But the real question is one dragon, Fatalis, destroyed a whole country, Vivi, a whole continent of a country, Strode. Why? And so, as hunters, most of us think that it's because he wanted revenge, because there is two different types of Fatalises. There's white Fatalis, which is an older Fatalis that can open fucking portals. So, it's a bit silly, but
about this stuff because there isn't that much there.
This is a bit
The
crazy.
equal dragon weapon,
This
as of
is
now,
very
isn't
crazy.
real. The Great Dragon War doesn't actually have a lot of information about it at all. And the information revolving around Fatalis is mostly fan theories at best. You know, it's always been considered a kind of silly concept to look at a wiki and take its information as fact. Volunteers write up a lot of the information we find in these articles, and they need to be moderated by other volunteers on top of that. This can lead to a lot of misinformation online, especially within fandom wikis which don't have the budget of something like the original Wikipedia. That's not to say these wikis aren't beneficial or aren't generally accurate. Far from it. I even use a lot of the references to help learn about the topics for my videos. But it's really interesting to go on an article like this one on the ancient civilization and find so much information that is generally nothing more than speculation.
True.
What caused this to happen? That's an interesting question, and maybe I'll explore it in a future video. But for today, I'll leave you with this. There's a lot of eager fans out there studying all the text within the series, its concepts, and its spin-offs. And this can lead to some really interesting sounding stories. But at the
True.
moment, that's just what a lot of these are. Stories, theories, speculations. Will we ever see something like the Equal Dragon weapon show up in the main series? Who
Is
knows?
it just a
You
theory?
know, I and
Let's
many
find
people
out.
would love to
Game
see that.
theory.
And maybe
Thanks for
take that
watching.
aside to the
Matthew Patrick would be so
civilizations
proud of
we
you,
hear
Vivi.
about in Monster Hunter lore.
Jesus.
I think that's a big factor that pushes people to explore the lore of the
Oh,
Equal
look, it's
Dragon
the
weapon
Tigrex.
and the Great Dragon War specifically. Maybe someday. But until then, I'll leave you here. Thanks
God,
for watching.
Tigrex with
Yeah.
no stamina cooldown. Just pounds, pounds, pounds whenever it feels like it.
So what do you think about the lore, or the
Uh,
not so much a lore, but what do you think of the lore that's not a lore?
But I think about the lore, that's not like.
It's fan lore because it was in concept art book and that like little bit of text with it. I personally think it would be really cool. I know the huntsman, you know the guy in the green armor, in World.
Mm-hmm.
He is from Monster Hunter 2 Freedom, I'm pretty sure.
Oh.
The tower, he scaled that to check it out, which is pretty cool. So there's a lot of deep lore about the huntsman. I'm curious to see if there's any like lore videos out there about it. But, you know, it's really interesting. I love this part of the lore because I'm like a whole civilization going to war with dragons, and then like, you know, only for the sheer fact that the humans' own hubris was like, oh, we're killing these creatures way too much, right?
Mm-hmm.
So remember how I told you normal people don't hunt monsters, and the Hunters Guild is an exception, but their goal is to hunt the monsters, but also to research the monsters and see what they're about, right? Kind of like equal balance. Like you wear the armor kind of like to honor the monsters in a way, and you use their, you know, in your weapons and stuff like that. But normal people, there are people who do go out of their way to hunt monsters, and it's actually illegal in the Monster Hunter universe. I think I told you that before, which is why the Guildmarin had to, in Monster Hunter 4, Guildmarin had to be with the caravan.
So basically, we're not supposed to hunt monsters.
Mm-hmm. Kind of crazy how that's a actual thing, isn't it?
So we're doing something illegal when we're in game.
We're not, because we're hired by the guild. And
But if it works, then it's considered illegal then.
exactly. But say we do everything, even on expeditions in World, they're all still under the guise of the guild. Also, the new world is like a new. Okay, so Monster Hunter World, which is what you've been playing with me. The reason it's so different is because it's a bunch of different fleets from a bunch of different like generations of hunters who have all come to this island where there's new monsters being spotted and new like stuff happening ecologically, and so the main guild wants to know about it.
Oh,
Which is
that makes sense.
yeah, because it's a place where elder dragons go to die. Isn't that as a hunter that would be interesting, right?
I mean, that would. Why would they go to that specific place to die?
Mm-hmm. Yep, and you haven't even... Remember, Zora Magnaros for you, because you're not caught up with the game yet. Zora Magnaros went out to the ocean to explode. You're going to see what happened with that later on.
What about the volcanic mountain monster that we fought in first,
That's who Zora Magnaros is.
Oh.
You're going to see him again, and I can't wait for you to see it.
So he's not dead yet. He's still trapped.
He's dead. That motherfucker's dead. But pretty much, Vivi, you'll see when we get to it. Okay, no spoilers. As for anybody who's watching this as a video, thank you for watching. Hit the like and subscribe button. Yeah, Vivi.
What about monster meat? Does monster meat taste good?
Of course. Also, the Rule 34 tastes good. Anyway.
Just meat.
Bye-bye!